All right, so I'm reacting to Andrew Schultz's take on the gender pay gap. So let's see kind of more of a comedian's take on these social types of issues. And it's kind of funny because I feel like nowadays comedians are like the main philosophers where they're able to kind of see the funny in a lot of the truth that is going on.
Anything could happen when you're day drinking. Somebody jerked you off in a truck. You jerk yourself off somewhere. It's daytime.
So let's take a closer look and see what happens.
Women's soccer. Okay, lesbians, now that I have your attention, why Subaru? Anyway, I want to explain why the U.S. women's national team sued U.S. soccer for sexist wage discrimination. Now, there are two reasons. One, they are the most dominant force in women's soccer history. Two, they're fucking idiots. Now, I'm not here to bash women. Hope Solo has done that enough. I just want to clarify.
I also play soccer. I know I mentioned this 1,000 times, but I played in college. I played pretty high level, with like the academies and all that. It is interesting to hear this perspective. I shared this in a different video, but I've actually have played the women's professional team, the Portland Thorns, when I was playing for the Timbers Academy. We were under 16s and we played against grown ass women, right? So they won the league that year. They had like big players like Alex Morgan, all these types of like big name Olympic players. We beat them 5-1. We played actually 2 games. The first game we won 4-1. The second one we beat 5-1. And yeah, we were 15. I couldn't even drive to the game. I think my mom had to like drop me off. Yeah, there definitely is, disparities, if maybe that can, prove that between men and women when it comes to athletic ability. That doesn't mean that we're the superior gender. I'm not saying that. But when it comes to athletics and physical capabilities, there's a marked difference.
What's going on. So here it is. The U.S. men's team, if you can even call them men, has an incentive-based contract. They only get paid when they play. And by play, I mean get their shit pushed in by the third world. The U.S. women's team was offered a similar incentive-based contract. They turned it down. The women demanded guaranteed money instead. Then they went out and pillaged more foreign women than the Vikings and won another World Cup. So they did the math and realized they would have made more money if they had taken the original incentive-based contract. So they sued to change their contract.
If that's true, then that's their fault, right?
And receive back pay for all the games they've already played. Obviously, the judge thought this was ridiculous and threw the case out immediately. Now, lasses of the grasses, chicks between the sticks, bitches of the pitches. You can't sue someone for giving you the contract you asked for. You also can't call someone sexist for giving you the contract you asked for. Furthermore, if you ask for a sexist contract, U.S. soccer isn't oppressing you. You're oppressing you.
So no matter what gender that does that, if you ask for something and you get it and you regret it later, that's your own damn fault. That's not oppression or sexism or racism or transphobia or whatever the buzzwords are whenever you do something that someone doesn't like. The U.S. women's national team, when it comes to, I guess, success in their own respective leagues, have done way better than, let's say, the U.S. men's team, who's never won a World Cup. But I think another thing to keep in mind, too, is like the demand of these games. Yeah, I think U.S. women's national team actually gets pretty big numbers at their games and people watching them. But I think still, right, it pales in comparison to the U.S. men's national team. So I think there's a huge discrepancies of demand, and it seems like, at least when it comes to pay, relatively the women were actually getting paid more, right, based on the revenue generated, based on kind of the incentive structure that they had a choice to be able to buy into. Obviously in this case, right, since they won the World Cup, it seems like they could have won more in that other structure. But look, that's your own fault if you guessed incorrectly.
Now, I understand it's shocking that women would break an agreement just because they're in a position to benefit financially, but that's exactly what happened here. And you dare say men have commitment issues. Now, in all fairness, for the first time in the history of sports outside of stripping, women are more profitable than the men. Pole dancing is a sport, by the way, and I'm a huge supporter of women's athletics. Let's go Magic City. Times are changing, people. Step out of the past, you bigots. Women are more successful than men at soccer. Men are more successful than women at being women. Welcome to 2020, man.
See, that's crazy. That was actually 3 years ago, and it seems like there's been a lot that happened over these last 3 years. I guess it seems like a lot of these trans issues that people are talking about seems to have been really kind of grown over the last 3 years. Sometimes it's like really funny to see like older videos like this and see how much more issues have become relevant and even more pronounced. Yeah, it's interesting.
I mean, Zim or Zer or whatever goofy shit you white kids made up because you feel guilty about not having any struggle in your life. Based on the money the women bring in, they should be making far more than the men, and I know how to make it happen. Easily.
So I guess, okay, why? So I stand corrected. I guess the women's do bring more revenue too. So wait, but shouldn't we then talk about the gender pay gap in that instance, right? Because I think there's been a lot of talks about how, revenue doesn't matter, especially in the argument of like, let's say the WNBA, which is actually completely financially supported by the NBA. Why isn't there talks about equality in pay then, right? Maybe I'm being a bit of a troll, but I think if we're going to talk about any sort of issues, then we also need to be consistent in how we apply it too, right?
You pay the men what they're worth. Nothing. Zip. Zilch. Zero. Zer. This is sports socialism. They do nothing and get paid anyway. It's un-American. Now, some of you might say that that's unfair. And to that I say, fuck you, you commie prick. The men's soccer team is garbage and they should be treated as such. Put them in a bag. Light it on fire. Is that what we do at Trash? The men didn't even make it in the World Cup. We couldn't beat Panama. That's not even a country. That's a shortcut. We couldn't beat Honduras. We couldn't beat Costa Rica. We couldn't beat Mexico. I mean, we have 40 million Central American immigrants in this country. Are they just sending the ones that can't play soccer?
See, this is also what makes Andrew Schulz so funny, man. It's like he's able to poke fun at both sides. And I think that's what makes comedy great and what we don't see many in a lot of media outlets too, right? It's either Fox News is only talking about one talking point and making fun of the other, and vice versa for MSNBC and CNN, right? I think that's why comedians are like the philosophers of today, is because they're able to, at least the good ones, dig into both sides, because there is hypocrisies and ridiculousness on both the left and the right. And I think, if you kind of get trapped into a lot of these echo chambers, you start only thinking the other side's goofy. But, look in the mirror and you're probably goofy too. Not me though.
Hombres, the Statue of Liberty is not holding up a red card. I mean, all those people, not one chicharito. When Trump said they're not sending their best, you gotta admit he was right. And you know what? We should build a wall. So we only let in the ones with the athletics to jump over it. That's how you win some headers. In 2010, we lost to Ghana. Ghana, a country we give millions of dollars in foreign aid every year. We're losing to teams we're feeding. Seriously, Ghana, if you beat us again, I'll tell you what's gonna be Ghana. The rice. Yeah, you can kiss that delicious jollof goodbye. To me, it's clear. The women's team makes stars. We know who they are. Mia Hamm, Alex Morgan, Ninja. The men's team is fucking unrecognizable. Who's this guy? I see that guy on the street, I assume he's doing magic.
Yeah, it's actually a good point. I think, besides like a select few, I feel like the women's stars are pretty well known, as much or even probably more than some of like the men's national team players, especially because, I think America really likes paying attention to winners in a sense, and rightfully so, right? There seems to be maybe more equal popularity between both genders in the sport of soccer, just because soccer isn't as mainstream as, let's say, basketball or football, right? Probably more male dominated sports. So it is an interesting use case.
This dude, that's the most boring rapper of all time. This guy right here, that's a Make-A-Wish adult. Let me guess, he's the star of a soccer movie called Bend It Like Leukemia. Now, I'm not saying the women's team is more skilled than the men's team. Of course not. And yes, they win mostly because half the world's women are stuck under curtains. They're also trying to hijack the women's rights movement to gain public sympathy to get them out of a dumb contract that they asked for. But
see, that's wild. Now in a lot of this kind of like victimhood mentality, cancel culture era, a lot of people use their own personal motivations and attach it to a popular movement to be able to gain personal monetary gains. And we saw that a lot. This is going to be controversial, but in movements like BLM, right? Because I think anyone can agree that, yes, Black Lives Matter, and that innocent black people shouldn't be killed just because of the color of their skin. But if we look at it as an organization, right, BLM, they're about to go bankrupt out of the, 11-12 billion that they raised. I don't know how much, but, and, from that money, how much change was able to be impacted? What it revealed was that founders bought mansions, founders, utilized the money for their own personal gain, that people donated from all over the world to hopefully impact social change, right? So there's always a kind of a fine line, and we need to be able to call out these types of things without being, scared to do so. Just because they attach themselves to a movement, that doesn't make them immune, because especially if you look underneath the curtain, you'll most times find a lot of selfish people that are only using the guise of this movement to be able to gain, personally. It's a delicate line, but I think that's why these types of conversations are important, because that's where it exposes a lot of the hypocrisies and what people truly are going for. Is it actually change, or is it more just change in terms of money in their pockets?
At the end of the day, they're undeniably the best in the world. And this is America. We love being the best, baby. Matter of fact, the only thing we love more than oppressing women is winning. So broads, take the money, because I know one thing for certain. The future of American soccer is female. Thanks, guys. Peace.
Well, yeah, let me know what you guys think about this. I guess more in the sense of, the gender pay gap. What should it be based on? Is there validity? And then also, what are some other instances where people are kind of attaching themselves to movements for personal gain? I think maybe we can see it across all sorts of movements, but we'd love to hear your thoughts. Like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to see more, do so.